So what the camera is actually following is ball bearings that have been tied in with this explosion and the havoc that it's showing. But the really interesting thing about this is that the more we consume images like this, we get this dilation of time and explosions that slow down and noises that are beyond what would actually happen in the real world. And if you've ever heard someone in a car accident, they usually say the same thing, which is, it happened so fast. A lot of people were looking at real life as if it was boring because it didn't match up with what they were experiencing on screen. Dull, disengaging, silent. Because I've got all this audio stimulus when I'm going and experiencing something in the cinema, but I'm not getting that when in real life. Slow, grey, but in the spectacle of life, the stuff you're seeing that's being delivered to you, that's been honed, it's dynamic, engaging. It comes with a soundtrack. Anyone here ever put soundtracks on their iPod and use that to kind of pump themselves up? I mean, the only music I listen to is soundtracks. So it's really interesting, and as cinema has gotten more and more involved, we have things like this. When Avatar came out, we actually had a person who took James Cameron to court because after experiencing Avatar, he found the world dull and he couldn't interact with it anymore. Now, I happened to be in New York in 2001. There was a quote that jumped out of the wall for me, and it was a quote by a well-known media representative, and the quote was this: "Seeing the planes hit the building was pure Jerry Bruckheimer." That quote for me was really eye-opening, that in a real tragedy that happened in this world, we didn't even have the lexicon of language to explain it without having to go back into the narrative, going back into the spectacle. And social media has become the new narrator for people. See, we are all the stars in our lives, and the narrator is social media. So that inherent understanding of narrative is actually an incredible pathway to be able to move through and actually communicate with an audience. My other passion is making, so I'm going to use that as an example and introduce you to the maker community. And these are a group of people whose whole jobs are basically, their whole purpose is to create and build using technology or old school methods. It doesn't matter what they use. The idea is to create and to be able to share that knowledge with people, and in that way inspire others to take that knowledge and create their own narrative with it. So here's an example. So this is actually a cart at Burning Man. This is a ghost from Pac-Man. It was actually done by some friends of mine, where they ran around that event with a Pac-Man and ghosts, and they would run around and literally play the game live. So the other thing I want to introduce you to is something that came out of Sydney called the Light Scathe. This stick here is actually hooked up to a $90 computer called a Raspberry Pi, and in that stick is a whole bunch of things called nanopixels, and they are addressable LED lights. What this means is that I can write a program that's going to flicker these LEDs at a certain rate, and if I take a camera and leave it on a long exposure, I can drag it across and create things like this. So can you imagine, you want to market something and your competitor's got a shop and it's well known where it is? What stops me from going in the middle of the night and putting my brand right across their store? I'm here today to basically challenge you guys to think a little bit out of the box. My suggestion would be to go and explore what the maker community can do. You can do that very easily without even leaving this office. YouTube is your friend, and makers love to share what they do, not only what they make, but how they made it. My name is Gil Poznanski. There's my information and details. Thank you so much for letting me share what I've spent my whole life trying to understand. Thank you so much.